Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now this video has somewhat been recommended by someone in my Discord server. They're basically in the early stages of sort of basic training, and they sort of felt like that when I spoke about basic training in that sort of hour-long video and sort of the videos from then, I didn't really sort of hit home when it comes to sort of like the mental resilience, the discipline, the conditioning, you know, the sort of going through those struggles, those days where you feel like you want to quit, things like that, along those sort of lines. And hopefully I can sort of speak about this in this video. And this sort of also relates to not just the military and basic training, this relates to your entire life as well. And hopefully I can sort of hit home on both of those sections, you know, military, basic training, as well as your life, career, family, whatever, you know, the sort of the big parts outside of that as well. So I'm going to categorize this, as I've already said, into three groups: mental resilience, conditioning, and then finally discipline. So let's start off with mental resilience. So the first one of mental resilience is find your why. This is probably the biggest one. For me personally, the first one for me is that one, it was a childhood dream. I always wanted to do it since I was about 11 or 12. Two, is because I felt like I mucked my life up too much in my late teenagehood and my early 20s. And I felt like if I just did it then, I would have been in a way better position now, yada, yada. And that was sort of a second point. Third point, probably the most important one, is the fact of, obviously I had a baby on the way. Obviously that happened sort of during my application process. So in the early days application, it was sort of those original two, and then obviously stuff has added on from that point. But that was a huge one, going through basic training. And a fourth one is that I actually wanted a long-lasting career. You know, I always found myself bouncing between different things. I really couldn't find fulfillment in them. And I was going after fulfillment, and I did obviously make my own fair mistakes in those jobs, but it really wasn't for me, and I really wanted something long-lasting. And fifthly, and this is probably more one that was recent in basic training, was this YouTube channel. You know, I set out this YouTube channel, one, to prove to people that you can do it regardless of where you come from. I'm definitely not the smartest, definitely not the fittest by any means. Two, it was only initially supposed to set up just to do the application process because there was no info online, and then people requested phase one. It just sort of snowballed from that point on. And thirdly, sort of this is more later on and more recent reasoning, is because of you know, because I wanted my family to look back and see the struggles I went through. So when they're going through struggles, because everyone will go through struggles, they can see they're not the only ones out there, because it can be quite easy to get caught up as that you're the only one going through a problem, which is not true by any means. So that's a really key one. Find your why, guys. And there's no right answer to this. Everyone's different. It might be family, it might be career, it might be something, you know, it might be something that you never really thought about that you will find in basic training. But nonetheless, find your why as to go in there. And you're going to need that a lot of times, especially in those early days when they really push it, or those early weeks even. It took me until about week 4 for me to actually start to enjoy it to some extent. So it can really obviously hit home with that. The second one, and this will definitely help you guys out, is embrace the discomfort, okay? So obviously in this modern day and age of sort of instant gratification, obviously we have all the tools and gadgets and all the luxuries, and you can get things delivered tomorrow, and you can have everything basically at the sort of tip of your fingers. You know, when it comes to basic training, it's done at their own pace. It's not done at sort of yours, and that can be quite a discomforting thing. And it's not just that regard, it's also the physical side of it. You're going to embrace that discomfort, the fact of having late nights and early mornings, the fact that you're going to sit things and go, why am I doing this? And you're just going to have to do it. Why did I go through, you know, in CBRN, a gas chamber? You know, why did I go in the CS chamber? Why? What's the point in that? And I still ask that question now. I'm pretty sure they did it because they found it funny. They tell you it's to trust the equipment. You know, I don't know, maybe. But, you know, nonetheless, I had to go through that. And that's part of the curriculum. I could leave if I wanted to, maybe not as easy as that. But you get the point I'm saying, that embrace the discomfort. Embrace the discomfort in being you know, self-reliant now. Some people, maybe you're still young and you're in school, and maybe you come from families that done a lot for you and you never really had to do a lot for yourself. Now you've got to wash, clean. It's basically like you're your own person. That can be a huge shift, a huge shock for people. So get ready to embrace that. That's a bit sort of a big one. And the sort of third point under mental resilience is sort of to break it down, guys. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So I've spoken about this before in previous videos, is that, you know, when it comes to stress for me, let's take my example. So I had a daughter that was going to be born during basic training. So that was obviously a struggle. Now the stress of that is that, am I going to make it back? And am I going to be able to go back for one? You know, X, Y, and Z. Now, for me, I've always been a checklist sort of approach when it comes to stress, as best I can. I'm not obviously perfect. So what do I mean by checklist approach? So let's say my daughter. So my daughter is going to be born. Okay, the due date is whenever it was. Okay, that might be, you know, let's say for the 5th week. I'm not going to say when the due date was or her birthday, but let's just say it was on the 5th week she's due to be born. Okay, so I want to be there for the birth, but how can I do that? You know, I didn't know what to do, so I can't solve that because solving it would be her being born. What can I do in the moment? What can I do in this present time? Well, I could figure out what the hell I can do. What's my options here? So I approached my corporals, I approached my staff and said, look, this is the sort of situation. Unfortunately, my fiance, sort of after I went off to start on day 0, she went to where obviously the parents can go and they can tell you what they're going to experience, things like that. She spoke to the staff, they made a note of it. She didn't mention my name though, so there was like this mystery person who's going to have a child. Obviously, they found out it was me, because when I told him, like, oh, it's you're the mystery person, I thought, oh, okay. So anyway, you know, that just gave me a bit of comfort. And they said, yeah, what we can do, you can go. And they told me the gen of if you go during the weekdays, you're going to be reflighted 2 weeks to the course below you and X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I had to deal with that. That's basically the choice that I had. Unfortunately, truth be told, she came on a Friday, so I didn't get reflighted. I was able to spend the weekend with my newborn, and I was able to basically had like 2 weeks left of basic training. So it was like really perfect timing. But yeah, that's a big one. Break it down, guys. So if it's about, you know, the fact of let's say you've got an assessment, maybe you're not very good academically like me, or maybe you're not very structured in a certain way. Break it down step by step. Don't try and see this gigantic, you know, sort of bowl of just all these different things you need to do. Break it down. Okay, first thing, I need to go and wash my uniform. Second thing, I need to get my shoes polished for tomorrow. I need to revise this. I need to go and do I need to do this review or that review or whatever you do. Just break it down and just get it done. And then when you're done, you can either obviously go and chill out if that's the way you do it, or maybe some people chill out first and then do it. Whatever your way you're doing it, break it down. That's a really important one. So this is one that I didn't actually have to experience, but I know some people had to, so I can't really speak on experience for this, is control your attitude. This is the sort of last point of mental resilience. Now, this is a big one. So there's going to be times when you're going to be pushed to your limits. You're going to be frustrated at people because they're lazy, they can't get out of bed, they're not doing their job. You know, they're pulling a team behind. So I know that feeling, but fortunately, I think maybe that's because I'm a bit older. I didn't really have like lashing out moments. I mean, there was like maybe one or two because, you know, I won't talk about exactly what happened, but I felt like it was relatively warranted. I won't lashing out necessarily, but, you know, I sort of got a bit aggressive, I guess you could say, because of certain things that happened. I won't go into it now. But the point is, control your attitude. If you're someone that finds that you're easily offended for one, or maybe you're easily wound up, or maybe you're easily, easily distracted, or you see these sort of points I'm getting at, you need to learn in these environments. It's going to be very, very unique. So let's say, we had people that were easily offended during basic training. The big thing is about block life, which I knew during basic training. Obviously, I haven't done that in the wider Air Force, but I assume it's the same, is that banter goes a long, long way. Now, I know there are levels of banter that's pushing the line, but you've got to find that sort of thing where there was people like just telling like just half-assed jokes and stuff, and people getting offended. And it got to the point where no one can talk in the block because they were just getting offended too much. Now, I know this modern day and age, everyone seems to be offended, but it's really, really important to have that. Now, if it is taking it over the line, obviously don't just cause a song and dance about it. Take that person aside and just say, look, mate, I get it's a joke, but I just, whatever your process is, but I just think, when I mean control your attitude, it's just don't obviously get start screaming and shouting and letting it all out sort of thing. I don't think that's a very healthy way of doing it. Learn to be diplomatic. If you have a problem with someone, I don't know what it is for girls, but for guys, I've always been a big believer of, look each other in the eye and sort of just say like, what's going on? Like I don't want to come here for like an argument fight. I want to, I'm trying to get through these 10 weeks. I feel like you have an issue with me. Like what's up? And then just have that conversation. Sometimes the best resolution, you just don't talk to each other. But the point is, you want to make each other's lives the best you can. Now, fortunately, in my room, I was in room 6 all the way up to the top. It was perfect. We had no issues in our room ever. We all got along. We all helped each other. So that made a huge difference. I promise you. But I know there was room below, and they just had certain individuals that were a problem. And it just caused extra stress where you don't need it. Okay, so that's what I mean by controlling your attitude. And and also there are some people in there where staff, obviously it is a game, guys, keep that in mind. Staff are meant to push you to your limits. I know there were some people that was losing it at staff. I remember someone in IFPT was just getting absolutely screamed at, and they just didn't give a shit. I just carried on walking on. You know, I'm just saying, I'm not saying, oh yes, like, no, don't do it. But I'm saying, obviously, don't start giving it back and this, that, and the other. I mean, unless it's warranted, but it's just not going to get anywhere. There was a moment in time where I basically got caught not sleeping in my bed. I know that's quite a common thing. Well, I slept on top of my bed. I didn't actually sleep in it. You got to basically sleep in it. I slept on top. I basically put loads of, I didn't want to sleep on the floor because it killed my back. And I put like loads of like sort of blankets and stuff over the top. I laid in it, and then I just ironed my sheets in the morning. I didn't check, but basically I put something on my bed. I got absolutely fucking rinsed for it. Like literally they were in my face, like screaming this, that and the other. They basically said I was lying, but I was telling them the truth. I literally said, this is what I do. I even told them, and they weren't having it. And I was just screaming. And then in the end I went, why would I lie in this moment? What am I gaining out of this? I'm telling you the truth. And then I ended up walking off. So you see what I'm trying to say? It's like, I said, yeah, you know, my bad. I didn't follow this. I did get caught. You know, this is what I did, and I just told the truth, but they weren't having it. They thought I was lying, so yeah, I can't do much about that. But anyway, let's move on. So the next one is condition. I really only have sort of like 2 points mainly for this. Is the first one is like practice under pressure. So this is really something that you can't do during basic training. This sort of conditioning is obviously before. I don't particularly like this conditioning side. Now, practice under pressure could mean, you know, it could mean a million one different things. For some people, physical pressure is easier than theoretical pressure, for example. So theoretical pressure could mean that you're doing an exam and you've got a time limit. That could be a pressure to you. If that's your weakness, just, I don't know, maybe do some exams on the outside. But to be fair, from going through it, the exams are really not that hard. I know for some people it can be difficult, but I'm not going to say what you can do, although when you get there, you will sort of understand what I'm talking about. There is ways to do it to revise way easier, and I'll leave it at that. You will find, trust me, when you go in now, let's just change, maybe things have changed, I don't know. But there is revision techniques that give you this. It makes it easy to pass. And then, well, I say easy to pass, it makes it easier to do the exam. It's probably a better way of saying it, actually. It's much easier to understand the questions, the format and things like that. That's a better way of putting it, actually. Makes it sound like they're cheating, which they're not. But, you know, maybe it's physical. Maybe you're really not good physically and you're not used to getting absolutely thrashed. Just put yourself as much as you can in that arena. When it comes to conditioning side of it, though, I think the best conditioning is just the fact of, you know, understanding that no matter how much you practice, it's going to be a struggle, guys, regardless, okay? Now, you can make it easier, which is the conditioning side, whether it's physical or theoretical, then fine. But that's really all you can do. The best thing I would say with conditioning is just be ready to just experience different types of pressures and sort of deal with it a bit better. That's really all I can say. And that sort of brings me on to my second point somewhat. Sort of build your foundational strength. So what do I mean by that? That could mean a physical strength. That could mean your legs. That could mean your physical, but it also could mean your mental. Foundation strength, conditioning and dealing with pressure, dealing with the fact where things are getting really difficult, things that sometimes seem completely irrelevant, you know, just sit there and just get through it. That's the point of having the conditioning side of it. And again, sort of those 2 points are just something that I can give. The biggest point that I would give is just be open to different pressures and be open for different struggles and just get through it. That's the best way that I can sort of explain conditioning as best as I can. So now moving on to discipline. So the first one in discipline for me is sort of attention to detail. Now, this is something which, it's really strange in basic training because a lot of things you do is completely fucking pointless. However, okay, I want to be very careful of how I word that. It's not pointless. It's pointless in the sense of like, why am I polishing brass? You know, polishing brass on a window that has no effect. It's just, you're just polishing brass. The point it's trying to get you used to is you're supposed to take absolute care of the small bits, because if you're an aircraft techie, you know, your AV, you know, whatever, CCS, even for my trade, you miss out something small, it could be absolutely catastrophic. That's the point they're trying to teach you. So attention to detail is really, really important. So, and that's why they're very anal on creases on your shirt. Obviously, creases in your trousers, you've got to have those big creases in your trousers, but also getting rid of other creases not supposed to be. Making sure your bed's made, make sure your area is clean and tidy, make sure your military locker is up to spec. Same with your civilian locker to some extent. You know, it's about teaching you responsibility and self ability, and that's why I've been a huge sort of advocate for the military, because it gives you structure. It gives you start learning how to take care of yourself. You know, they will chuck you in the deep end. That's the whole point. Now, fortunately, obviously, me being a bit older, I was a bit more reliant on myself in the civvy world, so it weren't too much of a shock. But I know for 16-year-olds, ironing, they've never ironed before in their life. Washing, routine, this, that, and the other, it can be a big shock. And I'm not just saying for 16-year-olds, you could be mid-20s, you could be 30s. If you've never had that in your life, you're going to struggle. Okay, but that's really important. Attention to detail is everything. So just get used to being disciplined in that regard. If there's things that are not, if there's things that, if it comes to it, like one thing I used to do is I used to just write down like a checklist, and I would obviously leave like a lot because I'm going to be ticking off every day. I don't want to keep writing it out, but I just get like a notepad or a big notepad, write down what I need to do so I can just remember myself, because the worst thing for me was forgetting things. That was one of my worst things for me. Maybe it comes with age, I don't know. Maybe when you get older, you start forgetting things. But yeah, so I started writing it down, and then it was like dotting or check or X or whatever you want to do to sort of make sure you've done it. And that sort of brings me on to my second point of discipline: master a routine. This is really important, okay, for everything. This sort of like is the overarching sort of element of everything we sort of talked about. If you master a routine, you can sort of deal with everything else, with mental resilience, with conditioning. So what do I mean by routine? So I mean, okay, we finish at 5 p.m. We know we have to do half an hour drill. Okay, we're going to do that at 7 o'clock. That means I've got 2 hours. What am I going to do for 2 hours? Well, I need to go and eat first. So that's another 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it is, right? So, okay, then, or what, however long time frame. I know you have a time frame to eat and whatnot. So unless it's changed, it's been a little while since I've been there. So, okay, I need to do that. Then first thing I need to do is I need to polish my shoes. My shoes are looking bad. Do the worst thing first. So let's say your ironing's not up to scratch. Start doing your ironing first. Or maybe a better way of putting it is sort of like what you need to do most of all. So if you've got an inspection tomorrow or whatever, then your shoes is crap. Get working on them, or you need to sort your bed out. Get working on that. Just get a routine going, and you won't get a routine perfect straight away. So one of my best sort of routines was my morning routine. It got to the point, this is not no word of a lie, I angled my towel, because obviously if you've gone through basic, you know, basically the end of your bed, you've got to have a towel, razor, toothbrush, and toothpaste. For girls, I don't know what it is. If it's just toothbrush, toothpaste, I don't know. Or razor as well, I don't know. For guys, it's that. Okay, then what I did was, it got to the point where I was so articulate in my routine, is that I was sort of like placing my towel and everything else I needed in the morning in a place, so when I got out of bed, or I got up from the floor, okay, because we all know that happens, I was able to basically, as soon as I sort of like step up, I can pick it up at the same time and go. That is like the level I got at. That's my like probably the most articulate routine I had was in the morning, and I was done. I had like, I think in the end I saved like 10 minutes worth of like stuff. So I was able to clean my bed space, so I was able to hoover, or able to do whatever, a bit more, I was a bit more weaker in, or whatever the case may be. So that's a really key point, guys. And that sort of concludes this sort of discipline side of it as well, is master routine. That's a really big one. And, I would say master routine when it comes to morning routine, when it comes to studying routine, when it comes to evening routine, you've got to get used to it. So that's a real key point. So that's going to be the end of my sort of points. So remember, guys, when it comes to all these points, whether it's find your why, whether it's routine, whether it's, sort of getting used to pressure, or sort of breaking things down, these can be taken into the wider world, okay, in the civvy world as well, for the rest of your career. If you're able to work on these in your own life and you're able to grow, you will be a very, very effective person when it comes to work. People would want you to work. So when you go out there, and if you decide to retire and you've done very well for yourself, you've been promoted, you've got a lot of qualifications, and you have a lot of companies sort of wanting you, you have more of a stance, you have more of a say of what you want, salary or work hours or work-life ratio, or whatever it is. It's really, really important to learn this stuff. And you also become reliable, and that's a really key point. Reliability is everything, not just in the military. It's definitely probably more stressed in the military, but also in the wider world, in social, in family. It goes for everything. When you become more reliable, that they know that if you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. If you say that you're going to get up at this time, you're going to be there, maybe 5 or 10 minutes early. It's a real key point, and people respect it a lot more, and they want to work, and they want you to give stuff. And this is something that I don't think is pushed in schools or anything. It's like learning about discipline. It's learning about mental resilience. It's learning about how to control your anger. It's learning how to control your emotions for guys and girls. These are really, really key points, and they sort of master that under sort of like, sort of containment, or sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of like being shackled. If you're controlling yourself, it's really important to control yourself, because you probably know, as I did, and I've already stated this, that sometimes you explode. You're in the wrong sometimes. It's really important to not suppress your emotions. It's about controlling. It's about thinking it through. What should I do? What's the best course of action here? This big stress, X, Y, and Z. It's really, really important. All these tips can be taken into your life, guys. So this is what I meant when I spoke about my basic training video. Like, take what you can from it. Don't just go to basic training because you want a career in the RAF. Obviously, that's a big part. It's maybe even the most important part. But go there to try and learn something, because regardless of where you are in your life, whether you're young or, my age, 25, 26, 27 or older, there's always time and always places to learn something new. And, life is all about learning something new and improving and evolving and moving up the sort of ladder, I guess you can say. And it's exciting to do. You can just, if you're someone who just wants to truck along through basic training and don't really learn anything, you can do that. That facility is there for you. But if you're someone that wants to get something out of it, you want to learn, you want to improve, you want to change you as a person, it's a great opportunity to do it. And if you take that mindset into wider Air Force, you're going to do very, very well for yourself. Okay, because the people who always want to grow and learn more, and they not have any arrogance about themselves, they want to listen to people. They want to, what do you think I can do in this, and what can I do in that? And you can do very, very well for yourself. And not just in the military, outside in the real world. You're gonna have people who want to be around you. You want people who want to be friends with you. People who want to work with you, and that's a really key point to just life in general. So anyway, I could sort of waffle on with this. I hope you guys have found this video useful. And yeah, if you are going into basic training, best of luck to you all. I hope it all goes well for you. But again, my biggest advice, take what you can from it. Do the best you can. Take the points I've given you and learn something about yourself. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You're not going to get to do basic training again. Maybe if you go different service, but you get the point I'm trying to get. So take what you can from it. It's 10 weeks. It's going to end at some point. The struggles are going to end. The stress is going to end. You're going to be like me, flipping, sitting in my house in one of the bases, just got a normal job and stuffing pizza down my face. No, I've been better at that. I'm joking. But anyway, yeah. So learn what you can from it, guys. And best of luck to you all. And I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is. Take care. Bye-bye.